again today, too. We've moved 2 hours away. It's not the same as when we were in Paramus. It could run over here anytime we wanted or anytime the town needed us to take someone on a tour. And we've taken Canadian Mounties on a tour. We have taken bobbies from England. We have taken people from all over the world. They were ecstatic just to be able to walk around Sunnybank. And you're here today. It's great. I think that the best idea to start with would be Reyes here, who knows all about the books. Marilyn Horowitz, who helped me for 25 years with her camera and research at the Library of Congress and the New York Times is here too. We have so many, and Christina there, who has researched her brains out. And we have pictures here if you want to know anything about them. Ask your questions and I'll be glad to answer. Do you all know how Terhune found this place? The elder Mr. Terhune? They were visiting someone from Newark, and they were driving in a carriage down the upper road when they saw men chopping down these big trees, and they stopped and said, "Don't do that." And they said, "This is our job, go see the boss." They did, and they bought the place just to stop them from chopping down the trees. So, okay, now they had 20 acres, then they had 40 acres. They didn't know what to do with it. So they decided the next summer to come down and build a house. And that's how Sunnybank started. And Terhune lived here mostly in the summertime because it was so ungodly mean. And Art Backer, who's over here, I want to introduce too, because she's the gal that for years and years has answered all of the children's letters that still come into Terhune. Not so many anymore, but for years and years, the Pompton Lakes Post Office sent her all the letters, and she would answer them, send them photographs, and anything that she thought would keep them happy. Mostly they wanted pictures of the dogs. And what else can I tell you about the beginning? Terhune lived on Riverside Drive in New York in the winter time until he retired and until he started writing full time, and then he came to Sunnybank to stay because he loved it. He was asked one time why he lived in New Jersey and why he didn't move to a more convenient place in the city to work. And he said, "The pen in my pocket is my office. I can live anywhere I want, and there's no place in the world," and he traveled the whole world, more beautiful than his house on Pompton Lakes. He adored this place, and he took such good care of it. On the pictures over there, you can see on the left side, you see two pictures of a farm. The elder Terhunes, and when Terhune was small, they had their own farm, their own cows, their own horses, and the farm was behind me down here.
Later, I guess.
And when we were here, when the Parks Department was first cleaning the place up, we found the original row of raspberry bushes that belonged to the farm. And they restored those.
I have half of a tape.
There's pictures there of the house, the way it was. It was a beautiful house. It was not palatial. It was a comfortable house. It had many, many rooms, small rooms. Terhune had a study downstairs. He had one up on the third floor. They were tiny little rooms, and the desks took up almost the whole room. Mr. Terhune was married twice. First to Lorraine Bryson, who was a teacher down the road here at Mrs. DeMille's School for Girls. They were only married a little more than a year when she died in childbirth. And the daughter Lorraine lived sometimes here at Sunnybank, mostly next door with his sister Virginia, who built a house right next to him. He worked, at that time he was working at the New York World newspaper. He was a reporter. He was a feature writer. He left the world after 16 years as assistant managing editor. And then he started writing 8-10 hours a day here in Sunnybank. His daughter was married from here. Finally, she married a doctor from Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York. She died, I think it was in 1958, wasn't it, Percy? 56. She was a diabetic, and at that time, diabetics didn't have the wonderful medicines that they have today. And she lived mostly with her grandmother or with Sister Virginia next door. Annis was not happy with the reminder that her husband had been married once before. In fact, in the book, the Burke Terhune I knew, we all loved to kid about it. She got to a certain point where she said that the next 5 years weren't important. We both had our sad times, and she skipped. And 5 years just disappeared out of the book, and then she picked up where they met and married and so forth. What questions can I answer for you? Nobody has a question? Chris?
Why did Terhune have to type? Why didn't he write in longhand as he got older?
He wrote originally, in fact, I gave the typewriter to the Dog Museum when it was in New York, and it finally made its way to St. Louis. He had a tiny little typewriter, and he used to go through them like one every 6 months because he pounded so hard. He was walking up on the road and was hit by a car, and his hand was disabled. Up until that time, he wrote on a legal pad, never a margin, side to side. And all of you in some of his original scripts know that. And from then on, it was a hunt and peck thing with the typewriter. And another funny, he had 5 typewriters in the house at one time. If you can take a peek at that 1917 car, Mr. Terhune never drove because the first time he took driving lessons, he hit the brake so hard he put his foot through the floorboard. And he never would get behind the wheel again. So when we had that picture of him with the 2 collies in the back and Mrs. Terhune driving, well, nobody could tell us. We took it to car agencies, and nobody knew what kind of a car it was. So our good friend Marilyn wrote to the Paris Car Museum in Reno, and they identified it as a 1917 Franklin. So we knew what kind of a car we had. I can tell you some funny stories about the day they were restoring some of the ground up around the lily pond. And I was here with some people that came in from Michigan. And that's the day we found Lady's marker on the on Champion Rock. And so one of the superintendents came up and said to me, "Hey, listen, there is a man here with the green thumb workers, and they are people, I think, over 50 years of age who are hired to do light work for municipalities with a state program. This gentleman worked for Mr. Terhune." Oh my God, this is wonderful. I can talk to him. So, okay, I talked to him. He sat down and he said, "Listen, lady," he said, "I can't give you anything real good." He said, "After all," he said, "we were the workers and he was the squire. And when he walked by, we tipped our hats. And if there were any directions, they came from Mr. Friend, who was the superintendent of the grounds and the kennels." And I was about to walk away kind of disappointed. And he said, "Oh, but come here." He said, "That lady, boy, she was something else." she used to come out and say, ask us where we were planting and what we were doing, and wouldn't it look better over here, and were we too warm, or do we want something to drink, or if we could smell the gingerbread cookies coming from the back kitchen there, and she'd bring us out some gingerbread cookies now and then. But he said, boy, she could get nasty. What do you mean she could get nasty? Because you can't imagine Anna's being nasty. And he said, well, the superintendent came from the greenhouse up that little road over there, and he had a whole box of plants. And she said, and where are you going with those? And he said, I'm taking them to the cemetery. And she said, if you do, don't come back to Sunnybank, because the first wife was buried up there. And anything that had anything to do with his first wife was a no-no. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody said anything. And when she didn't put flowers on her grave. Other than that, she was a very nice lady. So, what other things? We have the story about Rex, the ghost dog, who attacked Lad in the snow up that way. And Terhune had a hunting knife, which he always had, and he had to stab the dog. Rex was a half-breed. What was he? He was half bull terrier and half collie. But he looked more like a mastiff. He was a short-haired, ugly dog. He attacked Lad, and Lad was pretty old at the time, and he laid him low. And he was buried down near the barn somewhere in an unmarked grave. And twice, I think that's his ghost. Twice after that, that dog was known as the ghost dog of Sunnybank because he was seen once by the minister and once by a business associate. Once they were sitting inside talking, as he said, on a hot summer day drinking their beer, and after, when the gentleman got up to leave, the businessman, he said, that dog is so devoted, he's been outside the front doors the whole time we've been here staring at you. And he said, who? And he described the dog. He said, that dog has been dead for a long time. And he said, for what it's worth, he tells the story. He doesn't believe it himself, but he said this is a very reputable man who said that. The next time was when the minister was visiting, and they were sitting next to the fireplace in the living room. And when he got up to leave, he said, that dog is so devoted to you. He has never taken his eyes off you. Again, he described Rex. And again, Terhune said, I'm sorry, Rex died, a year or two ago. And again, Terhune said, I don't believe it, but I tell you the story for what it's worth. So, people come up here on Halloween especially. They come up here on the day that Terhune died, and they have seances here. They sit at Champion Rock and hope to see a ghost. But when it comes to the dogs, what can I tell you? What would you like to know about the dogs? I'm no expert. Remember, I was busy collecting, writing letters, running around. We have a very lovely girl who can't be here today, Claudia Schroeder-Allen, and she was our super researcher on the dogs. However, we have Christina Thomas here, who has done a tremendous amount of research. So if there's anything you want to know about the dogs, please ask it, and I know that Christina will answer for you. Anybody have any questions on the dogs?
When did he start showing dogs? What were his first dogs, and then when did he get involved in showing?
The only reason he showed dogs was people he was criticized by the breeders and exhibitors of the day, who said that because he was famous and because he was selling books, he was making money on his dogs. He was selling them, and that wasn't the truth because he didn't want to sell them. He was very particular, and anybody who bought a dog had to come here and pick it up. Absolutely would not ship a dog. The dog came first with him. That's what was so wonderful about him. He put the welfare of the collie above all else. And he also said he would never, ever write a story, exaggerated, but he based it on what a collie had done here, or collies that he knew of had done. He said he would never write something that a collie was not capable of. But the reason he started showing, just to prove to these critics that his dogs were just as good as theirs and maybe a little bit better. And some of the, I don't know what book, what magazine, was it the National Geographic or one of the dog magazines that named Fane as, at that time, as the finest collie that had ever been bred?
I think it was the president of the AKC said about Sigurdsson. Sigurdsson is the best collie alive in America.
Sigurdsson was the best collie alive, but someone also had something wonderful to say about Fane, too. His dogs were very beautiful, some of them. I guess he had some that weren't so beautiful like all of us have had. But his show dogs were magnificent.
He had two different lines going. He had his show dogs, and then he had his house dogs, who were basically the sinister blues. And
Yeah.
sometimes he interbred the two, but not usually. And usually that was just for sentimental reasons.
And Bruce, whose picture is here, he bought. He went to Staten Island to a show, and he saw the dog, and he said, I want this dog, and he talked the man into selling it to him. In fact, there's an article from a local paper about Staten Island. I call it's the Queensboro show, it says here. That's what it's Staten Island. And Bruce, he bought Bruce, and Bruce won all of these, all of those, and all of those ribbons. I hope you all saw what we got. Again, my friend Marilyn does things that I wouldn't even think of doing. And she went down to the Library of Congress. And she said, you have all of these things, and we're just starting a collection, and I don't see why you don't give us something. You don't know until you ask, right? So, thereby hangs a tale. It's a wonder the two of us didn't land in jail. A box arrived. They sent it to LaGuardia, Air Express.
They put the label. They labeled it.
Marilyn, come over here and pick up this and tell your part of the story, and then I'll tell my part.
Okay. What they did, they had to, because it was from the Library of Congress, I don't know what. They labeled everything that was inside the box. One of his old typewriters, a lot of the things in that case with the blue backing, and a gun. A gun. Colt 45 Army Special. And I got a call one day from my mother. I was working. I was expecting the box, fine. I would get it, and I open it up and fondle everything and go, hey, Claire, guess what I got, and when can we get together, and we'll give it to you. No, my mother called. She said, the 112 precinct in Forest Hills just called me. That's the police station. I said, why? She said, they want to know what you're doing getting a gun in the mail. and luckily I used to keep her clued in, sort of. So she knew. She told him it was a museum thing, and we're going to pass it on to some museum that we were going to be building or whatever. And it's harmless, and not to worry, and my daughter's a good girl. So she told him, that that's what it's for, and that's it. And then I had ended up calling the 112 precinct, and I said, well, listen, it's a museum piece and so on. Well, I'm sorry, you can't even open the box. We have to confiscate the gun. And I said, wrong. Not after what I went through getting that gun. And I said, look, what can we do to keep it? Well, we have to come inspect it. Don't open the box. And this was in the morning, and I had to go work the whole day, knowing I got this box at home. I just wanted to go home. Got home. I had to call the 112 precinct. Okay, I'm home. You can come now, and we opened the box. I wasn't allowed to touch the gun until they checked it out. Yes, I think it had the firing pin, right? Yeah, it still had the firing pin. And after they checked it out that it wasn't loaded, they let me squeeze the trigger. And it was very hard to do because it was old, it wasn't clean. And they ended up, after my father took a few pictures of it, they took it to the precinct. They had to put it through this kind of check and that kind of check and what, ballistic, thank you. And was it used in a robbery lately? No, it's been in the Library of Congress since 1930-something. I don't remember when she gave them everything, but, not lately it was used, though. To make a long story short, it went through all its manifestations and all this checking, and we finally got it back. I got, what? No, I thought we got it back and you had it to say, they took the firing pin out. Okay. Glad to see you. I'm getting old.
Oh, okay. Marilyn, when Marilyn called, they said, you have to bring it back. It has to be shipped air express from LaGuardia to Newark. I called the premise police. And I said, there's a gun coming in from LaGuardia, blah, 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 blah. Told them the story. They were hysterical. They thought it was so funny. However, you can't have that gun. It has to be air expressed from Newark to the Paramus Police Department. Well, we went through the whole thing again. It was turned over to the New Jersey State Police. They put it through all the same ballistic tests. How about, has it been in a robbery? No, it's been in the Library of Congress for 70 years or whatever, and dear God, we're going through this thing again. 2 years later, they called me and they said, we have cleared your gun. Come down to the police department and get it, but you're not allowed to take it from your house, from the police department to your house. I said, well, how am I going to get it there? Well, we'll deliver it. Okay, they delivered the gun. Then told me I have to have some kind of a permit for keeping it in the house, whatever. And this whole thing took 2 years from the time Marilyn, I was going to kill her, talked them into sending us this stuff. Why would they send you a gun? I mean, it was ridiculous. But they sent it. The gun now is in a case, hidden, in case anybody wants to rob my house, in the bottom of a cedar chest, with all the tags on it, just as we got it from New York police and the New Jersey police. And I don't know what to do with it. They don't want it for the museum here. Who needs a gun? And he got it originally from in Pompton Lakes was the DuPont, was it a munitions plant originally, and then it became a pay point or something. Anyway, it was from one of the guards gave it to him. And this is the gun. The only reason that it was so special, if you read the Terhune books, you know that in those days they didn't take the dog to the vet to have him put to sleep. Mm-hmm. And he said, maudlin as it was, when his dogs came time, he fed them a pound of steak. He had a dog that loved sugar. He found, he went out and he bought a pound of cube sugar and let him eat that. And when he took the last bite, he put a bullet through his head. And this is the way the dogs here at Sunnybank died. He would not leave the killing of his dogs to anybody else. And he said when they were they lost their dignity, when they were no longer able to survive on their own, they were senile, they were blind, the time had come. And this is the gun he used, and this is the reason, I suppose, they sent us the gun, and the reason that we were sentimental enough to go through all this to get the gun. But now the thing is, I called a retired policeman who does work on guns, and I said, can we dismantle this thing? Can we take the firing pin out? Can we load the muzzle with lead or something? Doesn't mean a thing if somebody stole it, they just have it bored out and have a new pin put in. So if anybody has any suggestions about what I should do with the gun that's in the bottom of the
Why don't we use it later on?
Throw it in the lake.
So that's our story about the gun and the things that came from the Library of Congress. These other things, we came by one at a time. We got some of them from a lady. That's another story. When Anna Terhune needed money, she sold 18 acres of the Sunnybank across the road to a friend of Mr. Terhune's, Dr. Betts. And a time came when Dr. Betts wanted more property. Meanwhile, she had given all these things to him. And he was his smoking and drinking buddy, he called them. They used to smoke their cigars together and have a feud. And so she gave all these things to him, and he seemed to value them. But when he asked Anna to sell him 10 more acres, he didn't have them. And he was so furious, he gave all of these things, the ribbons and the trophies, most of them, to his housekeeper. The housekeeper didn't know what to do with them, so she took them home to move something up the road. And when we finally found out about it, we called her, we made an appointment, we went up there, and we said, how about this? Well, they're in trouble, some pipes broke in the cellar, and they were wet, and they were miserable, and what? Name your price. So she said $600. And I think we paid her $600 just for this. And we paid her some more for that. And whatever. We got almost everything. And the funny part of it was, this I think is the prettiest little trophy. It was won by Sunnybank Jean, who was up there next to her daddy, Bruce. And I was looking at the trophies and counting them and everything and writing down what I was getting. And I said, well, this one was on her kitchen table. And I said, well, how about that trophy? She said, oh, no, that's my sugar bowl. I said, not anymore, it isn't. If I'm buying the trophies, it goes with them. So there it is. That was her sugar bowl. And a lady who had those called me, the ones that are on the velvet, and they were given to her by her father or something, and she got them from Terhune, she said. I didn't get a lot of background on it, but she thought that it would be nice if we had them. And they were, as you can see, that was way back. There was 1917 on the dates on those ribbons. And this is how we found things. There were people who heard about us and said, can we help? We heard about this or we heard about that. We saw something here in between Marilyn and Barb. The three of us worked to follow up on all of these leads, and we found things. Now, I think I've said enough, except I hope you've all noticed. This flask has APT written on it, and on this little piece of adhesive tape he wrote Applejack. So that was his flask with Applejack. Do you have any questions about any of the pictures here? Anything anybody wants to know? If not, I'm going to turn this microphone over to somebody else.
What I think.
Wouldn't you like to come here and look at things and have Claire around to answer questions? I think they're a little shy about asking from there. Yeah. Can everybody kind of come along on a tour?
Sure.
Okay. Dawn, come on. We get to go 15, 20 feet. We gotta go 15 acres.
Oh, this magnificent thing. We had this one restored. It was in horrendous condition. The water, he couldn't, there was only one watermark there that he couldn't get off. The man worked wonders with this. And it was done by Paul Bransom, who, I guess back in the 30s, was one of the top illustrators for magazines. And when his daughter found out that we had this, she called me. She was so excited. She was crying on the phone. She said, oh, she was so glad it was here. He said, Paul Bransom to Albert Payson Terhune, the master. And when our restorer opened it up, he found the quote, he slept with it. And this is Grey Dawn with his elephant that he always slept with. Yeah, this is Dawn again, a very early picture, and this is one that we did not have restored because we wanted people to see, you know, if they're restored and they look too new, they don't have the charm that they have when they're older. Some of them we had to have restored.
Turn it this way.
In bad condition. Who is this? This is Wolf, isn't it?
Where are they?
Yeah. This is Wolf and 4 of his ribbons from 1919. Oh, next. Who are these? I know Lad is. Lad is on the right side. The other one looks like Wolf. Wolf? Why does... That's not my writing. That's a very young picture of Terhune. Yeah, it is. It's a composite. Okay. And this one is called In Conference. Sunnybank Grey Dawn, Sunnybank, Champion Sunnybank Explorer, and Champion Sunnybank Sigurdsson up by one of the great big trees.
Sorry.
This one the man didn't want to do anything with. He said, leave it alone. He was afraid when he took it apart it was going to fall apart. If you want to see, if you walk up there and see the lily pond, this is the original lily pond, and this is what it looked like. And I might tell you that Terhune always had a big 2x4 from the edge down to the into the water in case any little animals fell in that they could walk up the plank. This one I bought recently. It's probably the most recent one, and the price is still on at $175. It's an original etching by Diana Thorne, who did a lot of his books, and it's signed by her, and it is Bobby. Lad. Yeah. Again, this is marked Lad, and I would assume it was Lad. Marilyn? Is that Lad? Yeah, okay. That's Lad. Okay. Okay. Now, we have a great big argument about this.
No argument. We know who it is.
Okay.
Laddie? Laddie's on the right, Bruce is in the middle, and Bobby is on the left.
That's the way we had it originally, and then I was told by somebody that I was wrong, and I switched Lad and Bobby. I was right the first time, okay. These are postcards that Mr. Terhune had made when fans would write to him, and instead of writing a big long letter, he would send these out. One is of Sunnybank's Chips, who was the Irish Terrier, and the other is Sandy, Sunnybank Sandstone. And postcards. Guess that was the easiest way to do it. He had a full-time secretary, Agnes Clay Babcock, who was a wonderful lady. She gave us a lot of information, and she died not too long ago. And she gave us pedigrees for the dogs, and she had one. She had a son of Treve. Was it a son? Grandson. Son of Treve. Everett. And we didn't know who was when she sent us a pedigree, and it was Evert, Everett, and it was Treve spelled backwards. It was his father. What? We don't know what that is. It's another one of those things that came from the Library of Congress. Apparently it's some sort of a printing thing. It's of him in a boat fishing. He's got a fishing rod. And I made a rough sketch of the house in case anybody wants to see it from memory. The house had 3 floors. And something I might tell you about Mrs. Terhune. She was probably from one of the premier families in New Jersey. She was Annis Morris Stockton Terhune. And our governor's mansion, Morven, down in Princeton, was her family home. It was just recently that I don't know what they've done with it now. It was going to be a museum, and that's where these things were going to go, but we couldn't wait any longer. Her great-great-great-grandfather was the New Jersey signer of the Declaration of Independence. Her father was a state senator and ambassador to Italy. Her great-great-grandfather designed the first propeller-driven warship. I think he was an admiral. She came from a very, very prominent family, and I think it helped Mr. Terhune an awful lot. In fact, she was, as far as I'm concerned, she was Sunnybank. She designed Sunnybank. I've been told that she did the outlines for his books. I don't know whether it's true or not. She made him. She was always behind the scenes. She cut herself off every picture that we've ever had where they were together. She had herself either airbrushed out or she broke that part of the picture off. She wanted to be behind the scenes. She wanted to be her own woman. She wrote a lot of very good books herself. Not doggy books. They were all very good novels. The White Mouse was the border up at Ems. Eyes of the Village, excellent books. Yeah.
She read Across the Line.
Across the line, please.
Oh, that was the mother. Yes, his mother, Marion Harland, was her pen name. She started writing it at age 14, and she common sense in the household, and many, many books. She was well known. So it was a writing family. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I had heard that the Wisteria planted down here originally was a gift from the governor, from his mansion to Terhune. Do you know anything about
No, it was here long before that. The original wisteria came from Olney in England. And when the Stockton family moved to Richmond, it was on their house in Richmond. And then when they moved to Princeton, to Morven, they brought it with them from Richmond. And from Morven, they brought it up here. Yeah. So somebody had... It was one of our politicians, somebody who had a lot of money, bought that and then gave it to the state as the governor's mansion. So, but that came in, I think, I remember the date 1609. Oh, and when you look at the painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, the oarsman up front, I have a picture of it in my bag there. The oarsman in front was Albertus Terhune, Terhune's great-great-great-grandfather, or great-great-grandfather. He was with Washington when he crossed the Delaware. What else?
Is there anything left in the garden from everywhere?
I don't think so. I have a list of I was going to read a list, it's boring. I've got a list of all of the flowers and where they came from. They collected from all over the world. They traveled a lot. And
Didn't they end up with some dandelions on accident?
was that, well, it was from Greece, wasn't it?
Greece.
Yeah,
Fancy flower from Greece.
the fancy flower from Greece, and when it came up in the spring, it was a dandelion. So, what else can I tell everybody? Who wants to know what?
Tell them how the whole project got started and how all the Collie people got involved.
The Terhune Fund. A member of the Collie Club of Northern New Jersey, Evelyn Warhurst, arranged for the Collie Club to come up here after the place had been sold to the realtor. And we had a tour of the grounds and so forth. And at the time, I wrote to the editor of Collie Q's magazine, and I told him all about the trip. And I sent him a little sprig. I had a nurseryman pack in sphagnum moss a sprig of wisteria and sent it to him. And he said, hey, you know, we ought to do something about this, so start writing. So I started writing about Sunnybank, and I had no intentions of doing a fund, and all of a sudden people started sending money. And I was panic-stricken. I ran down to our local bank and said, what do I do now? And they said, no, you can't start a bank account. You have to have a board. You have to have bylaws. You have to have a constitution. Oh, it was a mess. And if it hadn't been for the bank officer who thought that this was a fun thing to do, he helped set up the whole thing. And people started sending money. And the editor of Q's said, we're going to put a little coupon in here with your column every week, or every month rather, and people can send money. And they did. And that's how it got started. And then Marilyn wrote to me. Kathleen Reyes was still in school, in high school, I think. And she wrote to me and said, what can I do? And people started offering their help, and that's how we got started. And I have something here that I think you should all see. Our president of the Collie Club of America at the time was Ada Shirley, a lovely lady. And I arranged for Ada and her friend Mrs. Gray of Woolies Lane Kennel to come out to Sunnybank. John and I did a picnic for them and invited a few friends, and they came out and we arranged a meeting with the superintendent of the parks. And what they proposed was, if you build the museum, which they had intended to do on where the house stood up in the parking lot, we will build a vaulted foundation in it, and it will be the archives for the Collie Club of America. And we will have a local school teacher come in one day a week, open it up to the public, and to catalog all of the things that belong to the Collie Club of America. And everybody thought it was a great idea. And the letter that I have here is the letter from the department head, who can leave at any time. And third, a private organization whose leadership can change at any time. Considering this, ideas would be constantly changing. And what they're saying is, no thank you, we can't do it. But Ada Shirley did so much for the fund. She judged back and forth, up and down, through the whole United States. And every time she judged, she took a series of slides of Sunnybank with her. She gave a talk, she showed the slides, and she said, please, we need Sunnybank. We want Sunnybank to be ours. And that's what helped to bring money in, too. And then I have to say thank you to John Leishman, who paid all the expenses. About $2,000 worth of phone bills over the years. All the gas money, everything. He paid all the expenses. Man, did I run up those expenses. You know, he put up with a lot. Oh, and I have to tell you the funniest story of all. We had a very odd experience. Our house was U-shaped, and the wing on the side was our big family room. And in the wintertime, we had a very odd sound. It was like somebody was knocking on the side of the house, and we never found out what it was. But he used to laugh and say, I know who it is. It's Albert, and he's telling you to mind your own business and bug off. It was knock, knock, knock on the side of the house, and it happened at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, didn't matter. But he was sure it was Albert. Okay, what next? They are. What can I say about them? There's one leaning. I can't tell you anything about the Fred Layton. I know that there's a Fred Layton Jewelers in New York, and
He owned Howgill Rival, which Terhune
who did he?
greatly admired.
Say it again.
The Howgill Collies, he owned Howgill Rival, which Terhune greatly admired.
I did not even know who the dog was. Okay, now we know.
And he won this at?
I think he won that at Sunny Westminster. He exhibited at Westminster only once, and he took his two puppies.
Same trophies now, right, guys?
Yeah.
Explorer and Segerson, and
But you know something?
won every single class he was entered in.
Terhune had all of these engraved. He didn't get them that way because they're too
Engraved
uniform.
to the dogs.
Too uniform. No. Okay.
Why don't we, do you mind if people come and talk with you and mull around for a while? Why don't we take about a 15, 20-minute break? You can do some talking with Claire, and then we'll get together and do something. How's that?